Hello and welcome to ABC Interactive English. I'm Sam.
And I'm Mike.
And we have been looking at child labor in cocoa. And so we've been looking at chocolate and how it has not the best kind of practices in the production of it and the gathering of the cocoa beans and all of that kind of stuff. So, what are we supposed to do? If we still like chocolate and want to buy chocolate, how do we choose the right chocolate?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, when you go and buy chocolate in a store, if you look on the back, it might say chocolate, milk, sugar, blah, 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 but it doesn't tell you where the chocolate came from or who picked the chocolate and things like that. But the good thing is that people are getting more worried about this and want to be more careful about what they buy. So there's been these different groups over the last 10 or 20 years that have come up, and basically they go out into the world, find out where farmers are getting things from, how they're making things, and basically putting a label on the product that says, this is farmed in a safe way. The farmers get paid well, children aren't used, they're not hurting the environment or other animals to farm this stuff. It started, I think, often with coffee, right? So there's the fair trade labels to look for. There's a couple of those. That's pretty good, and it will tell you that, you know, the farmers are getting paid a good amount for the coffee. It might cost you more, but at least when you go and buy this stuff, you can feel like, hey, at least no children made this food that I'm enjoying, because, you know, you'd kind of feel bad.
Yeah.
Even if you're saving some money.
Yeah.
There's also the Rainforest Alliance. They protect rainforests in places where they might cut down trees to make paper and to make wooden furniture. And then there's the USDA Organic. That's one. If it says that, the US government says this organic. And another one that I know people are worried about, cruelty-free label. You can find that on makeups, because as maybe some of you know, some makeups they test by putting it in the eyes of animals and doing all sorts of really mean experiments and things. So it's a good idea to look out for this, educate yourself, make sure your money is going to a place that you would want it to go to, and it's not continuing to help people who are using children or other very terrible practices to get the things that you want in the stores. Let's look more about child labor in cocoa in our Part 2 article. Child labor on cocoa farms first came to light in the late 1990s. To end it, big chocolate companies signed an international agreement in 2001. Sadly, instead of decreasing, the amount of child labor increased. All right, so yes, child labor in cocoa. Of course, this is in the cocoa business, the chocolate business. There are children between 5 and 17. Remember that? 5 and 17. That's what we mean by child labor. Now it says there, child labor on cocoa farms first came to light in the late 1990s. When something comes to light, people learn about it. It comes to attention, it gets known about. It might have been going on before that, but maybe in the dark sort of, but maybe some newspapers and other people started to say, hey, this is happening. Kids are working on farms making chocolate. To end it, big chocolate companies signed an international agreement in 2001. Okay, well that sounds like a good thing. It came out, people were shocked and worried and angry about this, and the big chocolate companies, your Cadbury or Nestle, those ones that make all the chocolate bars that we see in the stores, they said, we have to do something about it. So all those big companies signed an agreement way back in 2001.
Yes, and an agreement, this is the noun form of the verb agree, to agree with something. So if they're signing an agreement, it means that they've all agreed and said, yes, we will do this thing.
Right.
So then that thing that they have signed is the noun. It is the agreement. They have come to an agreement. They have reached an agreement. They have signed an agreement, a contract to say, we are going to do this thing. But that was back in 2001.
Right.
And since we are talking about this article now,
in 2022,
I'm thinking that maybe it didn't go as well as
the agreement
they
didn't
thought.
do very much.
So if we see the next part of the reading, we have what?
Sadly, instead of decreasing, the amount of child labor increased. I'll show you with hand gestures. Instead of decreasing, the amount of child labor increased. That's exactly what they didn't want to happen.
Yes.
No, they wanted it to decrease. Decrease is to go down. When something goes down, especially numbers we're talking about here, it decreases from a higher number to a lower number. In the fall and the winter, the temperature will decrease in almost every part of the world. That's why you know it's winter. It's colder. The temperature is lower. The numbers on your temperature dial are lower than the higher numbers. The numbers decrease. But then in the spring and summer, what happens to the temperature?
Well, the temperature increases.
Yay!
So it goes back up.
Yes, it does.
And so you see between these two words, the only difference is the beginning part, the DE and the IN. And so the DE is a piece we can add to some words that means to go down, and the IN is a piece that we can add to some words to go up. That means to go up.
Exactly.
Now, this in part doesn't always mean to go up. It could be also just in, like interior, inside. But in some words, it does mean that. And so it's a good thing to keep in our head. So increase means to go up or to get more, or the numbers are higher, or anything like that. It is the opposite of decrease.
That's a very important point. We're talking about numbers going up and down. If you go from the 5th floor to the 1st floor, you are not decreasing. You are going down.
Yes.
But if we're talking about values and numbers and things like that, the more French fries you eat, the more your weight will increase or go up in a number on the scale you measure. So numbers going up and down.
A bummer because
decrease.
I like French fries.
Well, it also will stop you from having chocolate. So maybe that's good. Let's take a break, and then we'll be back to find out what happened with this agreement that didn't work. Some people and companies won't stand for that anymore. They only work with cocoa farmers without child workers. They also pay them fair and sometimes higher prices for their cocoa. Those people and companies aim to show the dark side of cocoa. Most importantly, they're working to stop child labor in the chocolate industry.
Okay, so we are finding out that in 2001, a bunch of companies were like, hey, we need to do something about this. We should sign an agreement and say no more child labor. But it's 2022 now, and we're reading this article, so it didn't work. The numbers actually went up instead of going down. Maybe the agreement had a certain bunch of rules, and then the people who wanted to make more money said, well, if we just make chocolate in a different way or in a different place, we don't have to follow those rules. Or something. Yes. I don't know. But the problem is now there are more child workers. But the one good thing about this is, though, even though that company agreement might not have worked, more and more people are becoming aware of it.
True.
And so,
it was in the news. Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
And so because of that, people are kind of also pushing companies to be like, hey, this is not cool. We are not going to buy products that don't have that fair trade stamp or that don't have good practices.
That's true. You can actually have power with your spending dollar. Where you spend your money can be very important.
Yes, and we see that actually in this next part of the article where it says, some people and companies won't stand for that anymore.
Good for them.
Meaning won't stand for that is child labor. And so they say, we're not going to stand for it anymore. This stand, used as a verb in this way, means we're not going to accept this. We're not going to be okay with it. We're not going to bear this. We're going to say, no, this is not okay. We won't stand for it. We won't stand to accept this thing. And so, again, more and more people are like, hey, not cool. We're not going to buy from these companies that are having bad practices.
Exactly. They're not going to accept it. They're not going to buy that stuff, and they're going to make sure everyone knows that those companies are doing it in this bad way. So what do people do when they want to not stand for these bad practices, to kind of fight against this whole idea of child workers making their chocolate? It says they only work with cocoa farmers without child workers. So find out who's working on the farm. If they have a bunch of kids there, don't work with that farm. Don't buy their cocoa. Don't buy their chocolate. Here's another way they can make things better for everyone, not just the child laborers, but the farmers themselves in these many poor countries, many of them poor countries. They also pay them fair and sometimes higher prices for their cocoa. So they see what normal cocoa that's made in a very fair way, what kind of prices those ones make. They don't try to get a deal. They don't try to get a special low price. They say, okay, we'll pay you that. In fact, we'll pay you 15% more, and we hope that you can use that extra money to make your workers' lives better and things like that.
Yeah, which is really helpful because a lot of these places that are really, really poor, sometimes their families, they are sending their kids to work because they literally have no choice, which is also a terrible situation where they just have not enough money. Their whole family just has to work to have enough money to survive. And so if you're paying the legal aged workers, the parents, the older adults, young adults, if you're paying them a fair or a higher wage, then that also can help reduce the amount of kids that need to be working as well.
Exactly, and that is a basic rule of how to treat workers. You pay workers a fair wage for one day's work. And what do we mean by fair? We mean something where one side or the other isn't getting a special advantage. They don't have more power. This is equal. This is something that both sides say, I'm okay with that. Are you okay with that? Yes? Great, we're both happy. So it's not like I'm taking a little bit extra or you're stealing or I'm giving up extra to you. No, both sides are happy with it. And if you probably asked other people, they get this, they get that. What do you think? Most people will go, no, that seems about right. That seems fair to me. When you play sports, you don't mind if you win or lose. You just want the judge or the referee or the teacher to give you a fair score and not give a special advantage or special benefit to either side.
Yeah, which is really important in sports games.
Absolutely.
Of course,
and
it's super important in this situation.
Yeah, with the workers have much less power than the boss with all the money.
Yes. And so then if we continue to look at our reading, we have the next part that says, those people and companies aim to show the dark side of cocoa. So we've got a little bit of a pun or play on the words of this dark side of cocoa because cocoa in general is a darker color.
Right.
And so they've got like the dark side of cocoa, this dark color, it's kind of a
and dark
play on
chocolate has more cocoa in it than milk chocolate or something like that. But we also are talking about the aim of these different groups and these different labels to try to get people to buy cocoa in a more, or chocolate in a more careful and fair way. Your aim, or when you're doing something, is your goal. That's what you're trying to do. Okay, so if you say, I aim to do this, you're basically saying, I'm trying to do this, okay? I aim to get in to a big American university, or I aim to be the #1 in my class in English next semester, or something like that. That's my goal. That's what I'm trying to do. Back to the article. Most importantly, for all of these people trying to do good things and make the cocoa business better all around the world, most importantly, or #1, they're working to stop child labor in the chocolate industry. Kids should not be in a field picking cocoa.
No.
Not at 5, not at 15, not at 17. After school, sure, but when you're a student, you should be a student, not a farm worker.
And so they use this word industry. They said the chocolate industry. So the industry as a noun is just the entire, all the companies, all of the production, all of the factories, everything that falls under the category of a certain product. So in this case, we have chocolate industry. That whole industry is going to include from where the chocolate is grown and picked all the way up to where it's turned into a chocolate bar and sold. So that's the whole chocolate industry. You've got the music industry, the fashion industry. It can be applied to any of these big, huge umbrellas of products. And so then that's how we use this word, industry.
Taiwan's a center for the computer industry, right? Hsinchu is a center for the microchip making industry. Yeah, so when you talk about whole categories of business, food, clothing, transportation, and food and chocolate, that's an industry that we hope to see some big improvements in the near future, because right now with kids picking cocoa. I'm just going to stop eating chocolate. Thank you very much. I don't want to feel bad when I'm enjoying my chocolate bar. So hopefully we'll get some good improvement on that. Thanks for joining us, guys. Be careful out there. Be aware of what you're buying and where you're spending your money.
Fair trade.
You want to do it in an ethical, correct, good way to help other people. It's not just about the money. Thanks for joining us, guys. We'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Child labor on cocoa farms first came to light in the late 1990s. To end it, big chocolate companies signed an international agreement in 2001. Sadly, instead of decreasing, the amount of child labor increased. Some people and companies won't stand for that anymore. They only work with cocoa farmers without child workers. They also pay them fair and sometimes higher prices for their cocoa. Those people and companies aim to show the dark side of cocoa. Most importantly, they're working to stop child labor in the chocolate industry.
Hi， 大家好，我是 Stephanie。那我们今天一起看单字。第一个单字呢是 decrease， 动词减少。The number of MRT passengers decreased a lot during COVID-19. 在新冠疫情期间，捷运乘客数大幅减少。第二个单字呢是跟 decrease 相反的 increase， 动词增加。The demand for food delivery has increased because of its convenience. 因为方便性，外送需求大增。第三个单字呢是 fair， 形容词，合理的、公平的。那有些家庭啊，如果有兄弟姐妹，有可能就会为了家事的事情而讲一句话，就是 Why do I always have to take the garbage out? It's not fair. 为什么都是我要把垃圾拿出去倒？不公平。那最后一个单字呢是 aim， 动词，以点点点为目标。Edison aims to become a vet in the future. Edison 以当上兽医为目标。第一个文法呢是 something comes to light， 某件事情曝光。今年初，林志玲和日本的明星 Akira 喜获麟儿，但是呢，这个消息并不是一发生就知道的，而是1个月后才曝光，所以我们就以这个好消息作为例句。The truth of the baby's birth came to light a month later. 孩子诞生的事实在1个月后曝光。那第二个文法呢是 instead of 加 VING， 而不是点点点。例如 Instead of taking a bus,Vera walks to work every day. Vera 每天都走路去上班，而不是坐公车。Instead of 之后的受词呢，你也可以放名词，像是 Kelly chose to live in Taiwan instead of London. Kelly 选择住在台湾，而不是伦敦。最后一个文法呢是 stand for something， 允许某件事情继续发生。那这个用法呢，它比较多是用在否定句，像是Stacy's boyfriend has been lying, and she won't stand for it anymore. Stacy 的男朋友一直在撒谎，他不允许这件事情继续发生下去。好，那今天的讲解就到这里 ，See you.
Hello, I'm Matt.
I'm Stephen.
Today we're playing Guess the Bear. We each have 3 cards with sentences where the vocabulary words have been replaced with the word bear, and we each have 1 minute to guess all of the words.
I'm getting all mine right.
We'll see about that. All right, you're up first. I'll read.
Okay.
Okay, let's 1 minute on the clock. Let's go. The first one is an adjective. He always goes first. That's not bear. Trials must be bare and impartial.
Fair.
That's right.
Okay.
The next one is a verb. Our profits bared in the 3rd quarter this year. Crime has bared in this neighborhood.
Increase?
Not quite. The other?
Reduce and decrease.
Decrease, right. The next one is a phrase with 3 words. His criminal past finally bared bear. A lot bared bear during the investigation.
Came to light.
Yes!
Oh my god, I'm amazing. Okay, your turn.
Okay.
All right. This is a verb. A bad diet bears your chances of a heart attack. Number 2, exports bared by 15% since the beginning of June.
Reduced, declined, increased.
Okay, there you go. This is a verb. Bear the gun carefully before you shoot. Number 2, I bear to get into an Ivy League school.
Aim.
Good. Okay, this is a phrase, 2 words. Number 1, let's go play soccer, bear, doing puzzles. Number 2, she emailed me, bear, calling on the phone.
Oh, instead of?
Wow. Go us. We're both really good at this game. Yeah, I'm pretty amazed I got the came to light.
Yeah, I was really impressed by that too.
I am a genius.
Once you got came to, I just waited to hear.
I could tell you were like surprised.
Yeah, I was surprised you even got came to, and then wanted to see if you get the light.
That's amazing.
See you next time.